Here we go.
Sunday we'll be talking. All right. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hi, this is Eric Stromquist. Welcome to episode 273 of Control Talk Now, your smart buildings video podcast for the week ending July 1st, 2017. That's right, folks. And I am joined by the man, the myth, the legend, the controls guy from Richmond, Virginia, Marc Petock, and the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only, Kenny Smyers, the controls man from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Folks, we're going to mix it up a little bit today. Marc has agreed to ride along as we'll just call you the host.
The third wheel, Eric, the third wheel.
The third wheel, there you go. And you know, I think, you know, Tom Petty and Bob Dylan had the Traveling Wilburys, right? One of the greatest rock and roll bands ever assembled. So this is kind of our version of that. What do you guys think?
Sure. I think it's always good to be around Marc because he's one of the anchors of the industry, and he's on top of all the technologies, on top of all the innovation. So whenever we need a reference, we can just let Marc fill in the blank there. But no, it's good.
Pressure.
There's a it's just teasing. We in Pittsburgh now are finally celebrating summer. We got a 92-degree day out there, and it's so sunny. Everybody's running for shelter, and the pool breaks. So how do you like that? We had crappy weather.
I'm going to tell you what, guys, we got probably 95 degrees down here. Before I came and recorded the show, I went to my ice cryotherapy thing, which is basically this big chamber I get in, 165 degrees below zero for 3 minutes. So I've had my near-death experience for the day, so I'm ready to go. Everything's good after that. So,
and it's about 100 in Richmond. I'm working out of my home office today, and it's about 100 here. So the way I look at it, all this nice heat is good for our business, guys. So it's good.
So special. First shout out's got to be to the sun. Keep the heat coming, baby.
Thank you. Exactly.
All right, Kenny Smyers. Well, do we have some shout outs this week, brother?
We do. We have a lot of them. Most of these are coming from our LinkedIn friends, but we get a lot of good information. We are congratulating a couple of people. Ryan Jordan, he started a new position as vice president at Stephanie Associates. They're out of Pittsburgh. They're actually good customers. Troy Schwen from ACI. Happy birthday to Troy Schwen.
Yeah.
We've got Susan Zerby for starting a new position at Penn State University as the marketing specialist. We have several people have new positions, but one more birthday. Mary Enzalone from Thermoflow. She is celebrating a birthday. We're not going to say which one it is, but and then we have Tabitha Bennett she's celebrating her first year anniversary at Cipher Networks. And we have John Petsy celebrating his 4th year at Project Haystack. I figured that one would be a good one. And last but not least, Matt Toll, 5 years at Honeywell. Congratulations, Matt.
Very cool.
What about you, Eric? You got any shout outs?
Well, actually, I'm looking at the text thing here, and, you know, we're streaming live right now. And there's Cindy and Linda Crawford and Evangeline. They wanted to they said that's Marc Petock. Tell them big shout out, Biggs. They said, hey, Marc, because I guess you knew them back in New York City when you were running around in the day back in the 70s and the Studio 54 days. So
yeah, right. Exactly.
Better say hi to all your fashion model friends.
Absolutely. I have one shout out. Bob Mealy, who heads up our business development here at LinkSpring. He's going to get mad. I'm going to say this, but he's turning not the 50, not the 60, but that next digit, the big 70. So Bob Mealy, here's at you, buddy. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
Bob Mealy. Great guy, Bob Mealy. You know, Marc, I tell you what, you know, for our listeners who might not know, but most of them do if you've been watching the show, you pretty much run LinkSpring and let Terry and Bob and the rest of them sort of take credit for it. No. But for our listeners, talk a bit about the team at LinkSpring, because you guys got just a fantastic team. I mean, talking with Terry Swope and Bob Mealy and yourself and Chris Ryan and some of the rest of the team.
Yeah, and I think that is one of several really good things that Linkspring has accomplished over the many years is assembling a true group of experts who not only know the industry, but are passionate about it. And I think that's part of the key in any type of position is you can have all the knowledge, all the experience, all the skill sets, which obviously many in our group, the industry has, but you got to have that passion and that fire and not get to a point where I think we're done. You're never done. You got to look at that next 10 yards, that next 20 yards and that type of thing. And that's what, again, what we've been able to assemble over the years. And, hats off to Terry for realizing way back in the late 1999, early 2000s, that the industry was starting to incubate this whole idea of smart controls, integration, all of that was starting to come about, and to have the foresight to go after it and then partner with technology providers, get our own developers and so forth and so on. So,
yeah. So Mark, I think it's kind of interesting, how Linkspring was even founded, because my understanding is that, Terry was basically a consulting engineer doing a lot of engineering work, and he sort of saw a need for multi-site locations, if I'm correct, right? And you guys sort of developed the service and able to implement across a national scale. And through that, you guys began to develop the products and stuff like that. So talk a little about the history of Linkspring, what Terry did and what you guys did, and sort of, then we'll get to what you guys are up to today.
Well, I think you summed it up, perfectly and accurately. Again, Terry was a engineer, and as he was working with major national accounts back in the day, such as Blockbuster, Boston Chicken, various entertainment theaters and things like that, Yums brand, started to see this need and actually tested the waters and decided, okay, he's gonna bite off and go. And that's what he did when he started the company. And I think, again, having that roots in the engineering side has really helped us go forward and see things differently and be proactive versus reactive.
Well, I think you're right. And Kenny and I have talked about this before too. I think that you guys might have hit it at the right time as well, meaning a lot of these companies have these fantastic products, but they got legacy type products that they, so it's like, it seems like you guys are pretty nimble, pretty quick. It seems like you hit it right at the things when things were getting opened up, and with Niagara and Tritium. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're one of Tritium's oldest and one of the original partners when the Niagara framework really started to come out in the marketplace. So yes.
What Linkspring did at the time was you guys came out with a scalability that took the powerful enterprise product solutions, but you brought it down to a level that a typical contractor, not a national contractor, but a contractor that was locally championing their services, but couldn't get access to the big guys because there already had been the Honeywell designees and the Vicon designees. So I think Linkspring hit that right in the time where there was a big market to fill, and you guys did a good job on it. But what I wanted to say too is not only your technology, but your company also offers like services, training, and then you really do have a deep partnership. So talk across kind of almost like your what Linkspring offers and how.
Yeah. Well, I think the way we're looking at ourselves today is and the way I like to sum it up is we're 3 years into what we call our E2E strategy, which is our edge to enterprise strategy, which basically is our path for the technologies we create, the products we develop, and how we go to market. And part of that, this whole E2E strategy is also looking at the marketplace and segmenting the market. So one of our markets is of course, our Linkspring technology solution providers, system integrators and contractors. Second market opportunity that we work with that many people don't know, and we don't make that much noise about it, but we work with a a group of OEMs who take our technology, take our services, and utilize them into their own branded products. And some of the big names, and we're just going to leave it at that at this point, that we are happy to be partners with. A third area, you know, in particular, what we saw 3 years ago with this E2E strategy was the importance of supporting national accounts and really upping the game with respect to supporting the national accounts. And again, that is working with our technology partners who are working with them, and we're working with them. And so I think that's an important area. And then the fourth in this whole strategy is this IoT ecosystem and being a player, a partner in a much broader sense of that market opportunity, just because, as we all know, IoT definitely has been a major influence in the controls and building technology marketplace.
Right.
And again, this strategy is really driving everything we do.
Well, I want to break a couple of those down, Mark, because you bring up some great topics, and I think you guys do national accounts as good, if not better, than anybody. Talk about that. I mean, I own 150 locations across the United States or whatever, or even North America. What are some of the common mistakes or things that maybe they don't think about when deploying, working with a vendor and then an integrator? I mean, what sort of questions, what should they be looking for?
Well, I think first and foremost is truly understanding what they have in those use your example, these 150 stores. Chances are everything is completely different. And again, being able to go in there and understand, do a site survey, truly comprehend what kind of equipment, what's in there. Second is to truly define a strategy that's based on goals and objectives. What does the owner of these stores want to do? Save energy, save money, reduce operations and costs and things like that. And I've kind of gone to a new way of thinking behind all of this. It's about operational value driving business outcomes.
Nice.
And I think we've looked at it as what's the business outcomes that need to be accomplished here, and then what operational value will go to support that and actually drive that. So, but you know, again, I think it's just like any other job. You go in there and you don't know what you don't know. Let's just put it that way, I think.
So you guys would typically, it'd be someone like you or somebody from your corporate level talking to the C-suite with somebody at the C-suite of the potential customer and establishing goals overall, and then pushing it down to your partners to go do the surveys and stuff like that? Typically?
Sure. And then bringing our partners in to help to implement the solution and be part of it right from the very beginning.
What are you finding is the biggest driver for them even taking action, a national account? I mean, in other words, why wouldn't I just put a thermostat in each one and just be done with it?
I think at the end of the day is finally our industry is making some inroads into the educational side. So I think they're looking at more than just energy or temperature. They're looking at it from that holistic view, the business outcome, and the fact that operations now are building operations are just as important as the business operations. And they truly affect the bottom line, the customer experience, and so forth and so on. Like I was with a national account once talking about, and he said, you know, don't come in here and tell me that you've got this magic box that can help me save HVAC, control my HVAC, turn my lights on and off when occupied. You know what? I already know how to do that. And at the end of the day is I don't have any money to go and help control my HVAC. We're on such tight margins. All right. So turn it around to the business outcome and talking is, well, your customers, do you want to know how long they stand in line before an order is taken? It happened to be a fast food restaurant group. And did they get the order within the allotted time that your operational folks tell you? Was the order built to the specifications of it? So let's say you're building a roast beef sandwich, a hamburger, or a sub or whatever. Was the amount of meat put on there? Was the stuff heated 20 minutes before Eric or Ken walked in? No, it's got to be heated right then and there. So it's operational type things that truly affect the bottom line in the business, and that's what they're looking for.
Well, sure. I remember, I'm just going to, remind our Control Trends community how involved you are in the industry. I remember we were at, I'm trying to think, it was AHR, I believe, where there was a council, or you were on one of you were sitting at a table with 5 other industry experts, and you guys were talking about that when people when they don't know what they don't know, and how, when you take a building and you do this IoT upgrade, or you make it IoT ready, or you take advantage of things and put data into actionable, parts and pieces, then they learn what they can do, and they really then understand why they have 120 stores out there or whatever, and they need to bring these all under some kind of control. But tell us about some of the carrots that you've had personal experience when you've seen a building, or you've seen a group of buildings that did not have a concerted effort to bring their building up to standards, and even with productivity, how we do that 330-300 rule, but for certain that when you bring a building online and you make people happy inside of it, that productivity goes up through the roof. And then all of a sudden, so you've had some personal experiences. Share some of those with us.
Yeah, and again, on that whole idea about the comfort, wellness, and productivity, and how that affects productivity, in all honesty, if you asked me that about 3 years ago, I would say, I don't believe that. It's just something, it sounds too good to be true. But since then, obviously, I've been following that and looking at it, and it is absolutely true. And there is now lots of statistics and data that actually back that up. And at the end of the day is one of the things I've seen too is this whole idea about the comfort and the wellness in the building is the facility side. Now this is a stretch, but it's starting, is now working with HR, because HR wants the employee happy, productive and all that. And they're looking at absentee days because of Kenny's sick or whatever, and was it because it was too cold in the office or whatever, those types of things. So I'm starting to see a new correlation between HR and the facility side,
absolutely,
operational side.
Well, it makes a lot of sense too, and sort of one of the unintended consequences of having a great economy with unemployment being so low is that somebody's not comfortable in your space, they'll go get another job someplace else, right? So. Sure. You have to be careful, and I think the millennials demand that your building's energy efficient and at the same time that they're comfortable. So let's sort of cycle back around to the national accounts, Mark, because like Kenny said, you are such a well-versed individual, and one of your strong suits is cybersecurity. You're one of the first people that we heard talking about cybersecurity. I know you've done a deep dive into it. You're considered an industry expert. Are most of your national accounts even thinking about cybersecurity? Is that something you have to make them aware of? Is that a reason they wouldn't do it? And how do you sort of overcome that?
Sure. Well, I think, first of all, to answer your question direct about are most of these national type accounts, again, whether they be retail or office buildings or whatever, yes, they're thinking about it, okay? But there's a difference between thinking and actually doing some things extra at the beginning. And I still think as an industry, there's no one on this planet, in my opinion, that doesn't know the importance of cybersecurity today in our business. But taking the necessary action, I still think we have a long way to go. And again, it's, we talked about this, 5 or 6 years ago. It's not going to be me. I don't have to worry about it. Or, it's like insurance. Why do I have to pay a little extra to make everything cyber secure? And it'll never happen to me. But, again, we're not going to get into the technical side of this. But, I'm starting to see certain segments within the industry, obviously the banks and the financial
Right.
groups are well into this and well advanced and taking action on it. Some of your more progressive owner operators are demanding it, and I'm starting to see specs as when they put out the specs for the controls and everything else. I'm starting to see a special spec in and around cybersecurity. And I also feel that if for the controls contractors, the system integrators, that's a great differentiating point for you.
Yeah.
Is bring it up. And again, I think at the end of the day, you're going to be protected in the long run, more so than them coming back at you at the end of the day is, well, you guys put this whole system in, it's great, and it's doing what it is, but guess what? We got hacked and we lost millions of pieces of data.
Well, yeah, they do that. And I think the other thing too is, Mark, and because again, you guys have been working on it for a while and come up with some really innovative solutions. I think that, trying to avoid having the IT department is involved with putting a VPN that they're managing, that adds to the cost a lot.
Sure.
It seems like you guys have come up with some solutions where maybe IT is comfortable with your system working, but how would you advise if a company says, yeah, we can't really afford it, we're not going to have IT pay to do all this stuff, how would you do it?
Well, again, there's things out there in the way you can set up the network and put some defense and depth mechanisms into it. Like, for example, one of the things that we've been getting a lot of traction lately is, again, I don't think we want to get into a discussion about OT and IT and the networks. That's for another day, another time. And that they're utilizing, and in this particular case, our Onyx cell router to connect remotely into it without even going to a device or the equipment without going into the network, which again is one way to do that. And then there's multiple other ways, but I think it's got to be part of the discussion in all areas. The control contractors need to bring it up. And owners, operators, if you're not asking that question, then you should be asking that question or questions in and around it. And I guess, again, going back to that E2E strategy of ours, that's where we started looking at this. In other words, what are the things going from the edge to the enterprise? What do we have to worry about? And obviously, cybersecurity is one of them,
Sure.
And then the uptime of the networks and so forth and so on. So,
well, Mark, we're going to invite you back then, because cybersecurity, is probably, again, we track the trends, top 10 trends. We try to summarize those year in and year out. We've been doing it for probably since 2012. But the cybersecurity, we'll have to have you come back, and we'll have to dig in again and have a cybersecurity forum on Control Trends in the very near future. But when we were talking about some of the things IoT and whatever, and Edge, and about Niagara, the framework, one of the chief, I think, differentiators of LinkSpring with the other competitors out there is that you took this formidable network platform and you put it down into a very scalable edge device. And now that edge device concept is really taking hold. And I've watched this go where we first started talking about the cloud. It was really interesting about all these gigantic mammoth cloud hosting services. And then we had the fog being, the halfway point or some interim point between the edge and the cloud. You don't need to go all that way. And there's a fog that can handle some of that, data and take advantage of it immediately. And all the way down to maybe the edge is where it's really at, and that you can now, because there's such formidable controllers and you have this ported Niagara, you can put that framework there and you can get all the benefits of some of this big LIG enterprise, cloud-based technology now is reduced into this footprint to this edge controller. So tell us about the evolution of the edge controller.
Well, again, as I said earlier, we've been a longtime partner with Tritium, and, again, one of the first groups out in the marketplace with Niagara. And I think one of the things that we've done over the years is we push the framework. We keep pushing it. And the fact that this whole IoT and our edge to enterprise, I keep going back because that's our strategy, guys, and that we really felt things are going to the edge, and we would rather do as much as we can at the edge or at that device level. So we took the Niagara framework, and we ported it onto first our Onyx platform, which is an open hardware platform driven by Linux. And then we took it and put it into this 534 form factor, and we built 34IO into it. And we just announced when we first came out with it, this is our Genesis Edge 534 Edge controller, we had basically two options, a 100-point option and a 300. We just announced, I think it was last week, that we now offer a 1,250-point option,
Nice.
and a 5,000-point option. So again, we're really utilizing this Edge platform to develop a lot of new things. And coming up, we'll start to see in our Onyx platform first, and then the Edge. We've ported Sky Foundry and did the SkySpark distributed edge architecture that Sky Foundry has. And in a couple of weeks, you'll see the first Onyx device out there with SkySpark on it, so that you can do your SkySpark analytics right there at the edge.
Wow.
And then coming up later this year, we're taking the 534, and which has Niagara in it, and we're combining SkySpark distributed edge architecture into that. So it'll be the first device out there that has Niagara and SkySpark together.
Wow.
At the edge.
Wow.
Now, see, to me now, that means that you guys are going to have a serious head start when you go out there and you talk about these national chains, and you tell them now that some of those barriers that used to be just simply cost, deployment costs, simply the cost of a larger controller that was, made for any and all applications, and even with the great advances that Niagara 4 made with that base controller that can be taken from a 5 device controller up to a 200 device controller, which is, I think, another great stride in our industry, a great offering, and the ability to even enable the security appliance where you used to have a separate Jace just for security.
Sure.
So we're seeing this, but we're seeing now that when you could take a very affordable controller and it's loaded, for bear. In other words, it's got everything. It's got Niagara on it. It's got Sky Foundry on it, and it has a very, very low cost point for installation. That to me is where we're going to see it happen. That's where we're going to really start to see the penetration into that, where Eric and I always talk about the race to the small space and that light commercial application where we're talking 50,000 square feet and below. And we got some publications to talk about. I got the distributor news, I got the contractor news, and I've got the Department of Energy news. And guess what, guys? For all our great technology and our great strides we've made, and the progress we've made, we haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg. There's still, some ridiculous amount of buildings out there that have no control over their energy consumption, over their equipment, other than simple thermostatic control without night setback, without even a schedule to it. So when we start to see these things, it just can't help but create greater critical mass. It's going to bring more attention. The more we talk about this stuff, we're going to draw more users, more contractors, more distributors into this equation, because they're going to want to handle this stuff and deploy it, because it needs to be done, because we're not building any more power stations. We're not going to build. We need to make our grid more efficient. And the only way we can do that is make each building kind of come alive with data and have what I think is scalable, price pointed controllers and service and the whole 9 yards. Because as we said too, because you're making these extraordinary controllers, we're seeing that architecture being reduced. So you're seeing one or two devices now where you used to put in, as many devices as you possibly could, because that was our business model, was to put in field level controllers, supervisory controllers, and front ends, and make some money in between. But so I think what we're going to see is services and software. That was the next thing I'm trying to dovetail into, is how is LinkSpring dealing with that reality that you're seeing more managed services, and we're seeing more things like software maintenance agreements coming through and the pipeline. What's your, if you can give away some of your secret sauce on that?
Well, again, we saw software as a service kind of starting to really take foothold in our industry. I want to say about 2.5, 3 years ago. And, we've actually built a model in around that as far as software as a service to people who want it. And because, are we going to, and I'm going to ask this to you guys and, discussion, are we going to get to a point in the future that it's all going to be as a service business, that you go in as your customers or the contractor goes in, we're going to do this, this, and this, everybody's agreed. And you know what? We're going to charge you X dollars per month, and that's it. We're going to put the controllers in, and it's part of the package. Are we getting to that model?
You go first on that.
Oh, no, I tell you, Mark, I've thought about it, like, with valves and actuators and stuff like that, especially since they don't break much anymore. I mean, the worst thing that happened to a distributor was them making the products great. Well, that's not really the worst thing, but the 5-year warranty or whatever. But I've thought about going in and selling the valves and actuators, say for X amount of dollars a month, we'll handle your valves and actuators. One breaks, we send you another one, put it in. It's going to be interesting to see if that happens. And then I guess sort of throwing that idea back at you, do you see that with your customers? Because are you see your customers doing that, or do you see you guys going in? I'm talking about integrators, or do you see you guys going in and saying to the owner, "Hey, for X amount of dollars, we'll have your controllers for life"?
I want to say yes. It's under discussion, but no affirmative answers or that kind of stuff. But again, it's also take the integrators and the contractor is being able to offer them something that they basically just go in and they offer it, but they're getting it through LinkSpring or one of the other providers in the marketplace, and or distributor, and they do it that way. Again, is it just another tool in the tool belt to offer if somebody wants to have smart building technology, energy management savings, whatever?
Well, I think what Kenny's saying real quick, and then Kenny, I want you to chime in on that. But what Kenny's saying about, what he read in the article, there's such a huge market out there right now. You probably don't need to do that. You probably need to do that when, the well drives up and there's more supply than there is demand. And then you need to be innovative. I could see it happening then more so.
Go ahead, Mark, because I'm going to transition. I'm going to throw my 2 cents in there and then transition to another.
Yeah, go ahead. No, please.
Well, no, we got a chance to talk with Scott Taylor at the Realcomm IBCon. Eric had a great interview with this guy. In 5 minutes, he summarized exactly, or he threw his version of it. He's the business development leader for KMC, which is also a major manufacturer and certainly a big player. They've got some real great technology. But he was talking about how he sees it happening is that, to answer your question, yes, I do. Again, Eric and I don't agree on certain things, or we see things differently in the time scale or the time phasing, how quickly, but I see what you just said, where software as a service, where we've heard the real estate people, and I know from personal, experience where I talk to business owners and people that influence the decisions, they have no money in their budgets. And the real estate is going through this finicky thing where they're trying to, buy and sell. They're trying to wrap, some pretty paper and marketing around these buildings and resell them without really digging down into that infrastructure and making that serious investment. So that they're really looking for service. They can pay $5,000 a month, but they can't pay $1 million. They can't get $750,000. I mean, if they need a chiller plant, yeah, they can get it somehow. That's magical because that's, it's capital equipment. And that's going to, that's an easier sell. But what we're trying to sell, these efficiencies and these data mining applications and really giving them chances to get ROI back, that starting point is a barrier. That there's just too much upfront costs and they don't know who's going to pay for it. But if you could come up with a remedy, and you could come up with a financial, instrument or implement that can bring this to them so that on January 1st, 2019, you have a fully IoT outfitted building and even the costs were born to a different structure. That customer inside that building in charge of that realty company or whoever the facility manager, he probably could come up with, X amount of money per month for so many years that if you could invest that, if you had that business model or the ability to, inhale and exhale that kind of money, over time, you would come out on a very profitable end and be holding, the keys to the future. But to get there is a trick. So KMC's, Scott Taylor said the KMC deliberately made something that was so inexpensive that didn't have to go through Niagara. It's saying could go onto the building and create a network, web-enabled, give them all the bells and whistles, and not have any requirement to maybe integrate with a legacy system or play too many games. Just the focus was to get in there and control stuff and give that person a user interface they could afford. He's saying that some contractors are leasing that. They're not trying to sell it anymore. So what they're doing is they're bringing it into that building, putting it into play, charging them a monthly service fee, and
To do the
somehow,
service contract, yeah.
right, and they're making it work because that service guy now he's getting his economy of scales. So he's not sending a truck. He's not rolling a truck for the hell of it anymore. He's got the ability to go in there and look and see what the heck happened and why they've got an alarm on zone 3 and they heard it's reading infinity or it's reading over temperature. He can do enough diagnostic pre-work to know exactly what's wrong and send a technician out there on an hour-and-a-half call with a new air discharge air sensor. So that stuff is coming. I don't see how. I don't think it'd be in my particular career, but I just feel it because we're just seeing all these stories. Every time you listen to anybody from the California Silicon Valley, they're talking about eliminating duplicity. So instead of taking 4 shipments to get it from the manufacturer to the end user, somehow the system has to facilitate 1 shipment. Now, the commissioning process, the sale problem, the channel, it's going to have to keep evolving to facilitate that because even though distributors are going to be very important, certain equipment always has to be available at a local level for a 24/7 response. The vast majority of our industry is going to see, the person that makes it and the person that needs it. And somebody, the channel is going to keep evolving to eliminate, cost of shipping, cost of store. So if they're talking that already, we need to examine our industry and see how many times we duplicate the same thing. And one of the things is that with equipment and controllers, as you make these more formidable controllers, we need less of them. So I see it's coming. Yeah, I see software as a service becoming, if you're starting out in this industry, and you're 25, 27 out of college or whatever, if you kind of point your, professional direction in that direction, you're going to be running the show. And, when you're 40 years old, because everything's going to be probably plug and play by then. There's not going to be the protocol wars. The tagging that the Haystack's coming up with is going to become a universal standard. Everybody's going to be building stuff so that you're going to be able to connect to whatever, controlling devices.
Kenny, you bring up a great point. Mark, you were very involved from the very beginning with Haystack, so congratulations on that. Upgrade our community on what's going on with Haystack. Well,
again, I think the push for data and analytics and how important that is today. And a phrase that I like to use is data is now become more valuable than the device itself. And I think Haystack, we were in at the right time to be able to help organize that through tagging and modeling and everything else. And just with this influx of data, we're moving along, and more people are getting on board the Haystack train, as they say. And I hope we put out that magazine, and we've been through that. You guys did a great coverage on that, so thank you. And there's a couple announcements that'll be coming out probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks with respect to Haystack. So I just say the listeners and the viewers, stay tuned. And, but there's traction out there.
Well, I got to tell you, Mark, Kenny and I have talked about this a lot too. And I think when they're writing the history of building automation controls, there are going to be certain events that happen, right? And one of them is going to be obviously, Tritium, Niagara.
Absolutely.
And I think Haystack's going to have a chapter in that is changing the way controls. Because again, for our community who might not know, Haystack basically is a universal tagging system. It basically really allows analytics and the use of data to be affordable for everyone. So agree, Kenny, would you agree with Haystack being one of the pivotal points in our industry?
Absolutely. And then when Kevin Smith from Tritium N4 got up on stage and said that Tritium and Niagara is all in on Project Haystack and Haystack tagging, then you have Siemens buying J2, and J2 is a big proponent of tagging, one of the original founding members, and and now Siemens buys Building Robotics and Comfy, so they're going to make sure. So Siemens, being a very large, powerful vendor, is going to take tagging to the next level too. It's going to make sure tagging ripples through all its different product portfolio items where tagging would be relevant, and seeing Niagara, Siemens, seeing, all the other guys too that were already there, like LinkSpring and all the other, all the guys around the world that have already adopted it. And then ASHRAE getting involved in that brick development. You're just seeing these big, powerful entities getting behind it. And so the local engineers who rely on, the spec writers and people, who generate the actual building specifications, building automation specification, all the divisional work on 23 through 26 or whatever. When we start seeing Siemens and Niagara putting in project or haystack tagging and semantics being the norm, the engineering committee is going to say, from now on, we want to see everybody is providing building automation or building equipment must have, project or haystack tagging so that we can fully utilize these analytic programs that give us optimal efficiencies across the board.
So Kenny, you opened up a can of worms here. So one thing, Marcus, right away is when you're talking to those national accounts people, one question they want to ask are your controllers haystack compliant? If they're not, you probably want to look at that because your cost to get the analytics are going to be useful is going to be so much better with that. And then the second thing is, since this show is kind of like three guys at a bar hanging out, having some drink, let's get into a little gossip. So what do you make of Siemens buying J2 and all these acquisitions?
Building robotics comfy is now as Siemens.
And lighting and comfy.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I guess I look at it as I'm happy for all parties concerned. And is it a surprise? No. For me, I think we're going to start seeing the acquisitions continue. And I think, again, it's good where you've got certain platforms or technology that, are going to get a bigger boost from a large entity like a Siemens and that kind of thing. But it also, I think it validates something very important in that the larger, more traditional type companies in our industry are starting to see the value of data analytics and some of this stuff out on the edge and whatever. So fast time to market, go find somebody who's got something, buy them, versus having to create it yourself and spend 3, 4, 5 years.
Haystack, great job with that. I know your involvement with that has been something. Cybersecurity, your involvement with that has been great too. And I tell you what, Mark, let's transition and let's talk about some of the posts this week. I mean, Kenny's been reading the magazines. He's got a pretty controversial.
Oh, no, I have a controversial question to ask you too. We could start some rabble rousing, but this will be a neutral territory. It won't be. It'll be. But one of my favorite things is the poaching techs. Immoral or necessary in today's job market. This is the opening. This is the headline from the HVAC News, Contractors News Weekly since 1926. It says HVAC contractors discuss employee recruitment and retention strategies. So let's see, like they have on that sports show where you put your thumb up or thumb down. So Marc Petock, is poaching techs immoral or necessary in getting your talent up to speed?
I'm going to say, unfortunately, it's a necessary evil today.
Okay.
Because, again,
we're going to come back. Okay.
All right.
You get first. Okay, Eric, up or down? Is it immoral or is it necessary?
Well, I'm going to talk from a distributor's point of view here, and I think it's immoral because for me to get somebody up to speed where they can be useful to our customers is on average about $250,000 in 3 or 4 years. So somebody that comes along and poaches your people after you've trained them, I mean, it is a very immoral but probably effective way because you don't have that cost involved in getting them where they can perform.
All right, and I'm going to go with necessary too with Mark. I'm going to team in with Mark because just like you said about that technology, I don't like it, and I wish I was one of the people that were poaching, many years ago. But think about it: if you can't get up to speed with the technology, and you're one of these extremely powerful, deep-pocketed vendors, the best way to get yourself back in the race is to buy a fast pony or a fast horse and let it loose, because while it's doing its thing, it's pulling your team along. It's bringing you inside and out. So you're winning externally and internally. And I think because here's why I say it. Well, Mark, we'll go back to you now. I'll give you my justification.
Real quick before you say something, I made my statement, but I want the community to know that I am poachable for the right price. You can poach me for the right price. But if you come anywhere near our employees, some of Mark's buddies in New York to break the kneecaps are going to come see you.
Yeah. And I guess where I'm coming from with this, and again, this I'm not talking technology, we're talking people, and it puts a light on a bigger issue that we've all talked about for a long time, is we're not getting enough new people from the tech perspective in our industry, plain and simple. So it's a matter of, it's mathematics. If there's 50, I'll just pick a number, 50 techs, and there are 75 companies, what's going to happen?
Consolidation, and
they're going to go grab the tech from your organization or Eric's or mine or who's ever, and
so all the great states are going to be the winners. So all the great climates, so all these real nice areas where people would like to work from are going to become the meccas, Atlanta, Silicon Valley, wherever. But here's let me give my justification real quick, because Eric, I've been drawing arrows here for about 2 minutes now, and if I don't say this point, I'll explode. Is we're evolving, man. So there's not enough people. Mark hit the nail on the head. If you don't have enough people, technology needs to fill the void. Remote viewing, all this stuff, wearable technology. So we're going to see more and more utilization of smart zones, smart companies with master systems integration capabilities on board that provide a support function using the technology that, you have people, you're going to start getting division of labor. You're going to start having people that are going to be the wearable technology techs. They go out there, they know how equipment works, but they don't know how to do anything. They are going to be a liaison to home base somewhere where they've got these really super smart integration savvy guys that can put different protocols together on a fly or diagnose, serious equipment problems, and even linking them to factories. We're going to see technology becoming more and more, more intelligently applied. Instead of everybody, right now we still have to call these numbers and we still have to go through this level to get this level and connect it and delays and whatever. We're going to see technology that's going to start making information and the technical support accessible almost instantly through just the various, just tell me what technologies you think would make that impact. But we're seeing YouTube, for instance. If you need to know how to do something, you go to YouTube and it's going to give you a basic understanding. Well, imagine if our whole industry starts taking this seriously and we start creating YouTube indexes on this, that, and the other, and you buy that as a service, you access that as a service. So not every one of your 10 guys needs to go to that training certification. You get one guy that does it, he does it well, and he supports 9 guys that do the labor on the actual equipment or makes that service connection.
Yeah, but you're giving me an argument why I wouldn't want to poach somebody, because I have to pay premium prices for somebody. And if I can do what you're saying of the technology, I'd rather invest in the technology.
The people poached your guy already. You're already mad and
I'm already
person.
mad. So now I'm already with technology.
No. So he's already in that center, being that support function. He's one he's the foundation of.
Yeah, I think the thing that we got to make a distinction too, because it's coming from HVAC Contractor Magazine, and those techs, like the guys that do the chillers and the refrigeration, I mean, that's been going on forever. Mm-hmm. But if you look at our industry, Marcus, and start thinking about great systems integrators, I'm seeing that you got certain contractors like Hepta Systems and some of the ones that really got an excess. They've gone and they've hired the top talent. They're managing them, they're grooming them, and then they are subbing those services out to other people. So I think you could also see it's an opportunity because, I guarantee you some of those guys have very huge payrolls. And I don't know about you, but I would rather rent the expertise when I need it if I'm not doing it every day than to try to hire it away.
That's another trend right there.
Absolutely.
All right, Mark, your justification, I cut you off there and I apologize. So what I tried to do is get your vote first, up or down, and then come back with a justification. I think I went out of the line there. I went my justification.
You're good. As I said, I just think it's when I say a necessary evil, again, referring to what I said earlier, the mathematics is there aren't enough people in the business now. So instead of suffering, people are going to go hunting. And they're going to make different offers or whatever the case is. And some people will take that opportunity to leave. But to Eric's point, you invest all that money into training them and all that stuff. But at the end of the day that's value to that individual. That training, that knowledge stays with them wherever they go.
Right. So it's resident to the person, not the company. Exactly. And that's why the company needs to make sure, I tell our folks all the time, because they've got some bright people. And Eric, to your point, the technicians, and you say they're just HVAC, you're working on chillers or whatever. It's been my experience and more that the real champions of HVAC in the equipment world are also the same champions in the systems integrated world. They got it. There's something that's magic in their mind. and they love to know how stuff works. And as soon as they do, they move on to the next thing. And as soon as they know how to do Niagara and do the wire sheets, and they got to know how IT works, and then they got to know how cybersecurity works. And these guys are they're a rare group of guys that somehow, just happen. And they take about 15 years to grow. By their like 15th, 16th, year in the industry, they've already got the mastery of the equipment. Most of these guys are tradesmen too, but not all of them. But they've got extraordinary experience with equipment, hands-on. They know how everything works. They already self-taught themselves the computer networking to get their houses or mini office or whatever. And then, I tell you, the guys I know, and I don't want to name any names, but most of them built their own houses. Most of them's got a little sports car that they run around on Saturdays with. I mean, they just have a huge, set of common denominator skills, but they're like fast guns. They're like, sharpshooters. They're Olympians in our sport. And I think what'll happen is there's not enough, and to Mark's point, but they can work well, if they get the resources and the technology, and they have the opportunities to, share on some kind of business model, because nobody shares for free. Nobody's going to give hard-earned information and technology away. They shouldn't. Anyhow, I don't think they should. I don't think we should be to the point where
control trends. But go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, if you think about it, we're talking about. Oh yeah. Well, that's true.
But hey, listen, real quick, and Ken, I know you probably got some more questions in the sequence, so let's stay on this path. But Mark brought up a point, because obviously it gets back to supply and demand. And Mark mentioned the question I'd ask both you guys: how do we attract more people to the industry? Because I think that's a possible solution there too.
And that's the next segue.
Oh, okay. Right.
No, because I was just going to show this little picture here of another great magazine capturing 40 at 40. So we have young guns. Marc Petock, you got a couple of them on your staff. Chris Ryan, Eric, you had a couple on your staff. Rob Allen and whatever. And we got more coming up this year at the Control Trends Awards. But I just took a brief look at this 40 under 40. So 40 executives under 40 years of old celebrating HVAC, our distribution's next generation leaders. This is where it's at. These kind of media releases, this kind of publicity, because quite frankly, when we grew up, we didn't know. I mean, I worked in family business, so I knew what my dad did, because he had to wake us up on Saturdays when I was 11 years old or whatever, and I'd go in there and work in the warehouse moving boxes around. So I knew what my father did. But most of the kids and young people that grew up my age had no idea what their fathers did when they were executives at Honeywell or executives at Tritium or whatever. They didn't realize that the whole, the ambience of the building is not an accident. It's an engineered outcome that took a lot of good, smart people to do it, from the people that made the products to the people that put them in and service them, make them work. And it's only now we're bringing positive attention. One of the posts we have is a testament to that too. So, well,
yeah, but I think it gets back to messaging. And I know when I was single and, an attractive lady would ask what I did, I said, I'm the guy that, heats you up when you're too cold and cools you down when you're too hot. So, we just
how'd that work for you?
Oh.
Yeah. What do you think, Marcus?
Can we put that when you go to the great controls room up in the sky? Can we put that as your epitaph right there? That's it, right? That says it all.
It could be that, or it could be his best pickup line is, we should go out. The worst case is we'll get married and you'll divorce well.
Well, listen, getting back to the post, I'm sorry, but I just having some fun there. But there's a lot of really good media out there. How we're going to do that, Eric, how we're going to draw people is every chance we get, we plug. Every chance we get, we self-market. We continue with our Control Trends Awards. We continue to make the young guns important. We need Ken St. Clair and all his media prowess to keep driving our industry and make it as interesting and as competitive. And I think we're doing it now. I think because we have these applications that marry so well with the old school, idea of pushing air and water through a building. Now, when we see these, when you can do an algorithm that can save 20% of energy efficiency, or you have an algorithm that takes building robotics comfy, and everybody's smartphone and smart device is now a true, accurate sensor of exactly where everybody is in that building and what their status is. Are they cold? Are they hot? Are they comfy? When you start having that kind of a playground of technology, you're going to attract people, because we certainly pay well. Our industry, like your friend Leroy has said so many times, he's had a very successful career. And there's one thing he could never, really make a negative comment about, is how the compensation has always been so good by being good at HVAC. So the they just have to do it every chance we get. If you're at a bar, Eric, or you're on an airplane, tell everybody you make them too hot or you make them cold when they're hot, whatever.
I'm going to tell my wife next time you guys are in town that Kenny and Mark and I are going to go out and we got to go recruit some people to the industry at the local bar.
All righty. I'm in. So we'll go ahead and just start running through these posts because two of them are just joint. We have the AHR Expo returns to Atlanta, Georgia, for the first time since 2001. And Clay Stevens, the AHR show manager, says, we are thrilled to be back in this great city for the first time in 17 years. So what do you think about that, Eric Stromquist from Atlanta?
Well, I think they know the Control Trends Awards are going to be at the Fox Theater, and they're thinking that a lot of people are going to come to town for that, and they'll probably go to their little show after they do our big show.
So I just saw an ad, Eric. I saw an ad online that said basically, are you attending AHR 2019 and you're looking for a house, just like you do when you go to Augusta and you go to the Masters, people rent out their houses. Got your house, your picture, and it's $45,000 for the week. Okay, you good?
We're good. We're good. I actually thought I'd just invite you and Connie, your wife, and Ken and Rita, and anybody else will come and stay at my house. And
yeah,
all right.
Tell my wife
that's gonna be fun.
Says we're gonna have some spend a night company. How many people? Oh, about 1,500. Parties at Eric's. So
well, it's going to be good. And we have a very important thing going out for our sponsors because as you know, Eric, it's a cyclic event. It's time sensitive, and once we get into July, heck, that started the rotation.
Nomination period starts.
So what, hey, Mark, if you could give us a good plug, why is the Control Trends Awards an important event in our industry, and why is it good to sponsor it?
Yeah, well, I think let's go over a few things we said. Attracting new people to the industry, making our industry exciting. We're doing all of that, but I think in particular, the 2019 is going to be the most exciting that we've ever done. And I'll tell you why, because I think there's so much new technologies, some new players, and that I do believe will be part of the Control Trends Awards community. But where else are you going to get people to brag about each other? Again, come together, as we've said, to recognize each other for the greater good of the industry. We've been a sponsor ever since the very beginning, and we have more than gotten our return on investment. And I talk to people who will call me up and say, hey, you going to do that Control Trends sponsorship? Absolutely. It's one of the very first things I put in our annual budget plan as we're moving forward and stuff. And what I've liked about it over the years, we have the tier ones, we have tier twos, we have tier threes, we have those that are the wishful people that have just started and are trying to make a name for themselves and get known. And where else do we recognize technology, people, companies? There really isn't anything else there. And again, I highly encourage and recommend any company who is considering it, get in before it's too late. And for those who are re-upping for next year, if you haven't done so now, do it right now.
Nice.
Thank you very much. Yep.
Well, thank you, Mark. And also thank you for the great job you do every year as an MC. I mean, I think, when Kenny and I first concocted this idea, you hopped on and said, how can I help? And it's grown. I mean, from the first time in Dallas, and Atlanta is going to be spectacular. We booked the Fox Theater, which has a lot of history, and it is right downtown. So
it's a great venue. Yeah, I've been there. It is a great venue. It really sets the ambiance, and that's why I'm saying that's all part of why I think 2019 in January is going to be, our best and most exciting event ever. And we need to concoct some things that will add to it, which the three of us and the rest of the planning group will get.
We sure, but I'll tell you what, the part of the country, Atlanta, is known for its just the genteel environment, the deep relaxation, the South, the beauty of the structure, the beauty of the ambience. This place was just recently redone, and the Egyptian room that we're going to be in is going to be a wow factor. You're going to go into the place and you can sit down and say, what are we doing here? This place is like Hollywood.
And then you're going to look over at the sponsor that invited you, and you're going to say, thank you so much for sponsoring this and for inviting me to come to your table. Can I please give you some orders and to reciprocate?
Okay.
Well, Eric, one thing you're going to have to do is, since you are the mayor of Atlanta and knows everything about Atlanta, you're going to have to concoct some kind of official Atlanta cocktail that we are going to have to have on tap or have to serve in honor of being in Atlanta. And
Well,
so
maybe a mint
out.
julep or something like that, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, you figured it out.
We'll figure it out.
You're the mayor. You're the mayor, so.
We'll figure it out. I'll be the mayor, and you can be the governor. All right, man. Well, that's good.
Okay, the piggyback on the AHR shows. The AHR show is going to be January 14th through the 19th, but they've got a nice little kicker too. The AHR Expo announces that the 2019 Innovation Awards call for entries. There's a deadline on here that we want to be aware of. It's July 31st, 2018. And basically these awards call to attention, bring attention to the products, systems, and technologies that have set the elevated standards for the industry's responsible and effective use of its resources. And here's some additional information, which you're going to hit the plug, and it says click here for that more information. But we already got a feedback from Mr. Aaron Gorka from Ant Technology. He says, thanks for the post, guys. Ant Technology will be going after the Innovation Award. So people out there, make sure you get involved and support those folks that you know that bringing those great technologies and solutions to bear to the market.
Well, it sounds like, Mark, maybe you guys better get some of your products in there, because you've come up with some very innovative products in the last year.
Absolutely. We got to get on the stick here.
Get cracking.
All right. Well, next. We're
I'm sorry, that's what Cindy said. Get cracking, Mark.
we're gonna punch out six posts here in about what? Anyhow, Microsoft Group Program Manager of Azure IoT, Bert Van Hoof, and Willow's CEO and co-founder Josh Ridley at the 2018 Realcomm IBCon vendor floor. This was one of those eye-opening events where Eric and I got to participate firsthand at the Microsoft Pavilion and then go to each of their Microsoft partners. And to your point that we said earlier, and that's why I was kind of glad you said what you said, Mark, is that the software as a service is not going to go away. In fact, what's happening now is we're seeing some of these really deep-pocketed giants come up with their cloud platform and work on a scalable level with new partners. And we got to see it firsthand. A great interview, but basically this Van Hoof tells us that Microsoft's ability to help influence what smart means in a smart building context, and how their new Azure platform capabilities, which Microsoft refers to as spatial intelligence, are helping partners realize their innovation goals in new global markets. And this Willow CEO brought his customer, a very intelligent guy from Australia, who took us live to Australia, where they looked into the digital twin of a building and evaluated a alarm, which was an overheating, over temperature alarm, and it was extraordinary. So when we talk about software as a service and we talk about our industry and how we're amidst a major change, and edge controllers are going to become a primary desirable product, this is proof to the pudding.
Well, I think there's a lot there, Kenny. The one thing they're missing, so I would encourage anybody that's listening with Microsoft, and Mark, I think you would agree with this, is the only thing they're missing right now is the haystack tags. They put that in, I think they're good to go.
Absolutely.
All right, next up we had a Cyber Pro Smart Power Supply. It was your interview with a very, very cool guy, Dan Nerowitz, CEO at Next Device. Tell us about that post.
Well, I think, man, at the end of the day, man, if you don't have the power right, you don't have anything right. Mark, you probably would concur with that too. And I think Cyber Power has shown up. They've been working with power supplies, DC power supplies, in all kinds of industries. They sort of narrowed the focus down with a particular product set that they're bringing to our industry. And the integrators that I talked to that have tried it, and our team that has tried it, they really, really like the product. It's priced competitively. It allows you some advantages. You're going to be able to troubleshoot easier. You're going to have a very stable power supply.
Cool. Okay, getting back to piping, tooting our own horns. We have National HVAC Tech Day. It was actually June 22nd. I got it. I think I was traveling, so even though I got the heads up, I wasn't able to put it up until the other day here. So I have belated congratulations and thank you for a job well done. And this is the typical homegrown local HVAC truck, the heating and cooling truck, the Joe's, whatever. It says that we should really take time to appreciate them for what they do, because again, our first world comforts our if we have you say it's 100 degrees where you're at, 95 where you're at, and I'm 92. Imagine if we don't have our air conditioning running, how upset we get. Heating, it's critical. You can die if you don't have heat, but in the summertime you get real cranky and real upset because you're uncomfortable. So the guys that perform day in and day out, we got to tip our hats to them and say thank you.
Take a tech to lunch.
Yeah, take a tech to lunch.
Take a tech to lunch for sure. All right, Marcus, I know you guys are big fans of HVAC techs, so
absolutely.
There you
absolutely.
go. There you go.
All right,
Kenny, what we have up next?
You got another great interview. This was I'll tell you, this Abundant Power at Realcomm Ibicon. Again, hats off to Jim Young, Mark, to Howard Berger, and Lisa Woods, because the Realcomm Ibicon just really put so many incredible players at the forefront, and especially at the vendor area. We got the chance to meet Derek McGarry. Tell us about Derek. He's head of building performance engineer at Abundant Power.
Well, it's interesting, Mark and Ken. One of the things I noticed this year at Realcomm Ibicon, and tell me if you saw the same things, there were more people doing analytics than I'd ever seen before. Virtually every booth we went by, or every other booth, somebody had an analytics package. And my good friend Steven Johnson from McKinney said, you got to go meet these guys. We work with them. They do great analytics, and Derek is basically the chief engineering officer for their analytics side, but they work with building controls analytics as well as other analytics, bring the package together. And, I think, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are really good at helping people gather the data. Your devices allow the data to be, gotten and sent someplace, but then you got to do something with like SkySpark or whatever to make the data useful and actionable. And that, I think, is easier said than done. I think, you look at the geniuses like John Petsy and his team, and I think these guys here at Abundant Power, I mean, they really know their stuff. You look at some of the people that do it on a full-time basis. They got data scientists on board because, trust me, you get 10 million emails, doesn't do you any good, man. You got to know what you're going to do with them, and you got to have a plan and a flow. So I was impressed with these guys.
Well, to your last point there about the data scientists, the way I look at this, we can connect, we can get the data, we can normalize it, we can send it up to somewhere to do analytics. And we have great analytic applications out there. There's no question about it. But where I still see that we need to get more people involved, and again, let's get new people into the industry, is these data scientists that understand the analytics and the information we're sending up, and then do that action. And I think that is still a barrier for this whole analytics thing in our industry, is true people who understand it and then tell us, you need to do this if this happens, or whatever the analytics is. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge.
Sure is that. And I have to say, I just want to reiterate that Derek McGarry is one sharp cookie. I mean, I had the pleasure of recording that interview, and I was really impressed with the passion he had. He really knew his business, and he started from a different perspective on the business, and they thought they were going to go to market this way. But by the time they got to it, they just basically go tell the customer, this is what we can do. If this is what you want, this is what we can do. And they can deliver the goods. And we're seeing that company just, they were talking about how well they were growing, and it was very impressive. So we'll probably see more from those guys in the future.
Right. No, I think we will. And it was, that's one of the great things about one of these conferences. You meet some incredible people. And like I tell my team, there are two types of people you do business with: the people you want to do business with, and the people you have to do business with. And you always want to be the people you want to do business with, because if you're people you have to do business with, as soon as they find a better option, they're going to go there. What I can tell you about meeting Derek and talking to abundant people, Abundant Power, those are going to be the type of people you're going to want to do business with. They're good folks, you can tell.
Yeah, they did a great job, and it was a great interview. Last post we have is the just announced new products from Honeywell. That's what's fun about this industry, is it goes around. These are just basic, job requirements. You have to have pressure sensors. You have to have current sensors. And when you see people, delivering the best product at a best price, it just makes everything easier and better. But there's a new line of current sensors and switches available from Honeywell. We have the link on it, but basically you're looking at low differential air pressure sensor applications. And then you're looking at the current switches for the just the split solid core, basic nuts and bolts stuff. But it's always good to see new competitive products being introduced to the market.
So I think the takeaway on that is we've got the link there that has a cross reference and all the data sheets. So, if you have any of these, you need to go and get them on order, try to find them before they go out, or better still, just order the new ones when it's time to order them. So
yeah, I bet you a Stromquist company down there in Atlanta and Orlando is going to have this stuff.
My motto when I tell my customers, hey, buy frequently and buy often. Buy from me. Maybe divorces are expensive, so that's it. But well, boys, man. So we got the 4th of July coming up. You guys got big plans, or what's everybody doing?
Mark, you go first.
I think we're gonna probably go to the beach. And one of the interesting things on a personal note that I've really started to enjoy is being a grandfather, being papa to my 3-year-old. And as we all can remember, that age is just that truly inquisitive age. So we'll probably go to the beach with him, and we'll see where it all goes. It's a shame that it's not over a weekend, that it starts right dag in the middle. But you know what? Hey, we'll see where it all goes.
Well, you're talking about 3-year-olds, and I don't know if you guys can hear that. My 3-year-old son is upstairs terrorizing my wife. I mean, he's actually just screaming at the top of his lungs, and she's back. So I might have to go referee a fight here.
Well, I got a tale to tell too here. We got some really interesting stuff happening. It starts tonight. My sister Lori and her husband Dan Pond. Lori and Dan Pond are in from Germany. Dan Pond, of course, was my former employer back when I worked for Pond Security Services. I was director of operations for Pond Security. My sister came over to visit us instead of going to California. And she marries my boss 45 days later, and she's still there.
No, hang on, Kenny.
Wow. They just celebrated their 20th anniversary. Now she's now the chef's feauuring. She now runs Pond Security. So how you like that?
You got to flesh out a little bit more, because you told the story a little bit more in detail about how you were supposed to pick your sister up at the airport and you couldn't, and so Dan picks him up at the airport, and then next thing you know, they're getting engaged.
I'm in dangerous ground, because if I told you a version and it doesn't jive with my sister's politically corrected version, and I'm in trouble, especially because
but if she listens to this show, she knows there's nothing politically correct about what we do here.
Now, the second German visitor is Gina Lewandowski. My sister's daughter plays professional soccer for Bayern München, and they have won the World, not the World Cup. No, they won the European Cup, and they've won the German League several times. But this year, when they lost in the Wolfstein, or in the finals or whatever, but it was heartbreaking. But now they're healed, they're healthy, and they're coming back. So she's going to be there. So my brother Jesse, the reason why everybody's coming back into town is Jesse Smyers, my younger brother's daughter, Samantha, is getting married on July 5th.
Congratulations.
So the party starts tonight and doesn't stop until July 8th, where my daughter Sabrina, she's going to have one of those reveal parties where they're going to cut a cake or pop a balloon, and it's going to tell whether it's a boy or a girl. For our family, we have a big old party. So my wife is the only one that knows, and she was afraid. I was in the Air Force, and I was in secret clearance, and I could keep secrets with the best of them, but they didn't trust me with that one because they thought I'd give a slip of a his or a her. But Eric, I wanted to show you one more thing, and this will be my final thing. Is remember that man, the myth, the legend thing? Well, that thing hasn't stopped. I got a cup now for it, but this is what I got for Father's Day. So can you see that? So
love it, man.
I can't hide from that anymore. You got me going now. So anyhow, I hope everybody has a great time on 4th of July.
Yeah, we'll do
Thanks
that.
to all the service guys, and keep us safe and secure. And we appreciate the work from all our military,
absolutely,
all our government folks. So.
And Marcus, people get hold of you, linkspring.com, right? And
yep. And again, just want to reiterate, I'm looking forward to another great Control Trend Awards show. I just, I've got it on that calendar, and there'll be a certain time where we really got to get into the mode of this. But I'm already there. For some reason, this year it's a lot earlier for me that I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm thinking we might do something like I'm just because it's in Atlanta, obviously. So we got like a big consulting engineering firm that's on board, a couple of contractors, ALC's down here in town. They're located here. Bill Duckelberger, Blue Ridge, of course, Acuity's home offices are here. So we're thinking.
Honeywell's got a big old data center down there too, don't they?
They do. So yeah, it could be. I'm thinking we need to probably rent a party bus or something and go around Atlanta. either before or after the show and get, maybe that'll be a sponsorship package we'll offer that you get.
Well, I don't want to leak too much, but we got EasyIO's is also an event sponsor. They came in very early, and Mike Marshall, thank you to you and
Gene Elliott and the rest of the
team. And Lim Hun Chat and Johan Shakolrad, all the guys there, because it's starting to build. Like you said, Mark, I've got the same kind of feeling because there's it's not the razzle dazzle of Las Vegas and Chicago. This is more slower. It's a slower burning event that's going to have more impact. So we're going to see some really interesting people. ASHRAE's down there too. Their headquarters are in Atlanta, and then all kinds of shooting stars are coming across our horizon. But we're going to get together, like you said, and start to really hone the opportunities to make a really great event, a memorial thing. And one of the things we're thinking about the significance of, say, Atlanta, and some of the nice things. If you read that post, what Atlanta has done and what it means to the country and how it's one of the growing, it's like the Silicon Valley of the East now. And we're seeing this migration of all these big companies, that are moving down into this area and just filling it up full of technology and money. It's not happening in Pittsburgh, I can tell you that. And I know Richmond is also a very high tech area. It is. But Atlanta seems to be doing something that's kind of, noteworthy.
It's crazy. It's just growing so much. But Marcus, again, thank you so much to you and Terry and the rest of the team for your sponsorship and your support of the Control Trends Awards. We've always been able to count on you guys. And again, when we talk about people you have to do business with versus people you want to do business with, if you haven't done business with LinkSpring, they're great people to do business with, and you guys do a great job, Marcus. But I tell you what, guys, we need to support the beer industry. Yeah. We need to all probably sign off and encourage everybody else. 4th of July, let's have beer sales go up. And special thanks to our veterans. So with that, special thanks to our guest, the one and only Marc Petock from linkspring.com. And, of course, the man, the myth, the legend. We appreciate everybody tuning in. So with that, be bold, stay in control, stay relevant. Thank a veteran, recruit somebody for our industry, and have a great 4th of July. Look at that, man. Talk about